Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. As you can see, I got here wrong way beside me, my co-host tonight, Mr. Arctic Fox True Crime. How you doing again, buddy?
Doing good, doing good. How are you?
I'm making it, trying to make it with this weather. It was a little bit cooler today, but still schlepping my groceries today. Sweating a little bit, but can't complain, can't complain. So welcome everybody for being here. Miss Marion's here, Chris is here, Miss Lisa Joe is here. Ange from Truth and Justice channel is here. And also Mr. James down there somewhere. FarQ is here from Australia. Welcome, welcome. Mr. James is here. Always a pleasure to have Mr. James here. And Miss Marion. And I haven't seen Miss Barbara, but she may be otherwise occupied tonight. Let's see if anybody else snuck in on me. A whole bunch of comments just popped up. You're most welcome, Miss Marion. Absolutely. All right, so tonight we are going to be talking about Melissa Witt. And before we get into Melissa, I found today, and it may be just new to me. You guys may have already seen it. Apparently, September is National Cold Case Month or something to that effect. And I found this site. It's called southerngaltruecrime.org. Have you seen this one, Arctic? You probably have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was just when I was bored. It was a slow day at work today, so I was playing on my phone and looking for stuff. But it's kind of like the Charlie Project. So I'm going to start delving into it and looking at some cases and sharing those with my short videos. Because I found an article. Actually, I found an article about how Texas is using this solvethecase.org is featuring a lot of cases from Texas. They're working together. So anyway, do check it out. Anybody who hasn't seen it, I know, like I said, I'm probably late to the game. But it is please, if you're not a creator, because it says, they call them, cyber sleuths, but, the ones of us who are in it for the right reason, can, find cases to do videos or whatever the case may be on, or just regular people can go, share the site, share cases just to help bring awareness. All of us have our part that we can do. So anyway, I just wanted to start that up there for a minute. And then I have, I'm going to be doing a video Friday, or recording it either tonight or tomorrow, about John Brent McGee. One of his friends got in touch with me, and Arctic has already done a video on John, so please do check it out. I think, but I'm not sure. I think I might have shared it on my community tab, but I'm going to be doing a video also. So be looking for that video Friday, uploaded sometime Friday morning.
Yeah, that case is crazy, and his wife is nefarious AF. So.
Yes, I watched your video that you did on. I was like, what? Yeah, and then like I said, one of his friends had messaged me on Facebook Messenger and asked if I would do a
that's
video.
how I got the case. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're trying to get national coverage on this. Would you mind covering it?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'll cover it."
Yeah, because she was like, your friend did one on it, and you immediately, I said, it must be Arctic, had to be Arctic. And sure enough, she put a link, and I thought, yeah, it's Arctic. He's on top of it. So yeah, so I will, like I said, I will get it uploaded sometime Friday, and then hopefully, since I'm going to be unexpectedly have some free time Friday night, we're probably going to do a Friday fun night Friday. Get a little decompression in. So anybody who wants to join in, probably about 8:30ish Central Time, we'll be doing that. We'll have some trivia. We'll have some music. We'll have whatever. It'll be anarchy. It'll be a free for all. All right.
I'll do stand.
Huh?
I said, I'll do stand up.
Yes, you can come on with me if you want to. Absolutely, I'll send you the link, and if you feel like it, you can come up here and we can wreak havoc together. It's always a pleasure and a fun
Yeah, well,
time.
I might end up getting you demonetized. So.
No, well, yeah, yeah. If you can keep it down to a minimum, a dull roar, of sorrows. Oh goodness. Oh, apparently tomorrow is Miss Marion's birthday. Happy early birthday, Miss Marion. Absolutely. She'll be 60 years young. Absolutely. Oh, Lisa Jo likes the idea of the Friday fun night. There's Miss Michelle C. Hello, hello. Welcome, ma'am. Oh, just want to think I'm getting caught up. Oh, how sweet. Mr. James says Marion is going to have a wonderful birthday tomorrow, still beautiful and amazing. Absolutely. We love Miss Marion.
I know, James. She must have found that Dick Clark beauty cream because she doesn't look a day over 40.
Absolutely. She needs to send some of it to me, I'm telling you. Oh, goodness. So, yes, happy birthday, Miss Marion. You're most welcome. Okay. So, just a little background on Melissa for anybody who may have not heard of this case, although it has got national attention, but
It sure didn't
Melissa,
when it first started.
what?
I said it sure didn't when it first started.
That's true. When it should have got national attention, it didn't. But yeah, Melissa vanished from the bowling world in Fort Smith, Arkansas on December 1st in 1994. Her body was unfortunately found on January 13th, 1995 by two hunters in the Ozark National Forest in Franklin County. Melissa was 19 years old. She was found nude, according to investigators, and her offender took her clothes, shoes, jewelry, the infamous Mickey Mouse watch, after strangling her. So just jump in anytime you want to, Arctic, with your thoughts and comments. And
I need to probably be smoking on some THC before I started on this. So this case is very close to me. It really happened right in my backyard, guys.
yes,
And it's always been very personal to me. Melissa was 19 years old at the time that she went missing. She was attending college at what was then called West Ark. It's the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith now. And from the jump, law enforcement dropped the ball in her case.
yes,
Um, Missy had gotten into an argument with her mom that morning. And so they used that against Melissa and said, oh, well, if you argue well, basically used it against her mom and said, well, hey, if you argued with your daughter, she probably just took off. But those that knew her, everyone at that school that knew her, they were all saying, no, there's no way Melissa would do that. She had a job. I think she was working. I know she was working at a dentist's office. She may have had
yes.
another job on top of that, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember right. But she was saving money as best she could. But again, she wasn't real good with her money. That's what her argument with her mom was that morning. She needed a little money, and her mother said, hey, you've got a job. You should be paying your own way. And, but ultimately the mother had called Melissa, which is why she ended up at the bowling alley to begin with. And, she wanted to have dinner. She was going to buy Melissa a hamburger. And that's how this whole thing started. Melissa, we know that she made it to work. We know that she made it home. Um, we know that one of her friends had lunch with her. I think Chick-fil-A at the mall.
Yes. Yep.
And after that, we don't know exactly what happened. We know she made it to the bowling alley, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't think she made it inside the bowling alley. So Melissa goes missing. Marianne, her mom, tries to report her missing. Law enforcement doesn't take a report. Her car is not found for 3 days after Melissa goes missing, and it's been sitting in this Bowling World parking lot the entire time. So they find the car, and they miss several puddles of blood in the Bowling World parking lot. It's not
Mm-hmm.
until yet another couple of days later that, thankfully, our local news station had been saying, hey, she goes by the name Missy, and a employee at Bowling World finds a keychain that says Missy. And so they alert law enforcement to that. And keep in mind, all this time, until they were put pressure on by a local news station, they didn't even have her listed in the NCIC database. There was no BOLO for her car, nothing. They were saying, hey, she's an adult. She can do whatever she wants to do, which is what we've seen way too often in a lot of these cases. How far was the Bowling World from her place? It wasn't very far. She lived in Fort Smith. I'm thinking probably, 5 miles tops. Wasn't very far from her house at all.
Yeah.
Of course, should be found in Franklin County, which is 2 counties away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they even dropped the ball there because while they did get fingernail clippings from Melissa, they were never submitted for DNA testing. Not until 2023, I think it was, that they submitted the fingernail clippings finally. Now, granted, they
Yes.
didn't really
Yes.
get any results off of that, but still. And in 2023, they also found an entire box of evidence that had never been gone through, that had never
Yep.
been tested for anything. Now,
See, and that's one thing I've. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. That's one thing I found out watching the new documentary is about this box of evidence that hadn't even been gone through. Nothing was submitted. Just blew my
yeah,
mind.
absolutely insane. Now, there's been several suspects in the case, persons of interest, I'll say. A
Yeah.
couple of them I can pretty much eliminate just based off of different things. Like there's this guy Charlie Vines. I don't think he was the suspect. They eliminated his DNA from the cigarette butts that were found over by the body and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's much more likely a suspect in my eyes in the Morgan Nick kidnapping than he would be in Melissa's case.
Yeah.
But um, and either way, he's deceased at this time.
Yeah.
Um, but it really pisses me off. I mean, it was a different time too in the 90s, guys. I remember when we were out searching for Melissa, I could go in every single store and they welcomed us with open arms. They let us put flyers up everywhere. Now, fast forward to 2023, and we had a young lady that was I had covered on my channel. I got a tip from one of my friends that she had been spotted in Fort Smith at the bus station. Um, which of course I turned that over to law enforcement. But when I got that, I went throughout Fort Smith hanging flyers for her, and about 50 to 60% of the businesses would not even allow me to hang up a flyer for her.
I
That
know. That's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Just like many of the Walmarts don't even have a missing persons board up, and the ones that do only allow flyers from NCMEC. So, in a case like Melissa's, where she is over the age of 18, she wouldn't have even had a flyer up at Walmart.
Yeah. Exactly. I said if the Walmart even has the board now, we were talking, before we came on live and we was talking about there's one Walmart in my part of Arkansas, Central Arkansas, that I go to semi regularly. That even has a board up, and like I said, it's all knickknack, which is good. But you know you have missing adults too, and
Exactly. And yeah, James, they do have DNA from cigarette butts, and they have run DNA, but nothing's come back. One of the suspects they're still or one of the persons of interest. They're still waiting for his DNA to be put into CODIS. He was arrested way back in 1998, but back then it wasn't standard procedure to take DNA and put it into CODIS. That should have been done, but he fell through the cracks and it was never put in. So they're still waiting on that. And then they're also working on another suspect that allegedly was supposed to meet with Melissa the night that she disappeared and kept a Mickey Mouse watch on display identical to the watch that she wore all the time. And they're being very, very closed mouthed about that right now. They're not putting a lot of information out. I do know that there's a private investigator named LaDonna Humphrey that's done a lot of work on the case, and she's
Yeah.
offering a reward for credible tips that could lead to breaking the case open. So,
Excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a picture of the Mickey Mouse watch. Let me bring up my slides so I can read just quickly. Because it came from an interview, or when LaDonna's last book came out, or latest book came out. I think it's the third one that she's done. Excuse me. Sorry. It says, she, talking about LaDonna, launched a deep dive into the Melissa's life that included combing through her diary. One suspect continued to crop up. Of course, I haven't mentioned his name publicly because he's never been charged. But shared that he does have a very violent history with nearly 24 people coming forward to talk about the violence that they had experienced at his hands. Ex-girlfriends who had been beaten and strangled by him. And also supposedly his former roommate, LaDonna Humphrey, talked to him, said that he thought the suspect, that he said that the roommate told her that the suspect told him that he was supposed to see Melissa the night she disappeared. And the roommate also claimed that he had the Mickey Mouse watch that he displayed in the apartment, adding, to the mystery, because Melissa was wearing one. It was not found with her. They say he fit the profile given by the FBI of Melissa's offender. So,
and my understanding was that Melissa had actually written in her diary about supposed to be meeting him that night. So,
yep. It's just, so who are you talking about the DNA that has been put in, but they haven't got anything back from it yet? Is it any of the ones that we talked about?
yeah,
Is it?
it's the oh my gosh, Couch or whatever his name is, the
Oh,
Colorado rapist.
this guy, Travis Del Crouch.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
They're still waiting on that DNA to come back, and
Okay.
it's so ridiculous. Now they did. Here, I will say this: the team that's on it now seems very invested in trying to solve the case.
Yes.
Um, but unfortunately, it's 30 years too late. Had
Mm-hmm.
they gone on and done what they were supposed to do, immediately taken a missing persons report, put a bolo out for that car, not missed a car sitting in a parking lot for 3 days, and then another 2 days go by and you miss the fact that there's blood and a hair clip and everything right there in the parking lot. Who knows? Melissa may have still been alive because she wasn't found until the following month. Who knows how long she was alive for and being tortured for before they ended her life. So,
Exactly. And I still don't understand how the car. I mean, I can understand maybe, if the car was not right there in the Bowling World parking lot, but how? Because that her mom gave a description of the car. That probably had the license plate, and it was sitting right there the whole time. How did they? Ugh. I'm like you. I get frustrated. Like we were talking, I get so frustrated. It just blows my mind. Yeah, and then the blood, not seeing the blood on the parking lot, the blood pools or whatever. Granted, it had rained, but you can still see them because in the footage they show, they have pictures, crime scene photos, and you can see it with the naked eye.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now there it was an exhaustive search for this girl. I mean, we
Mm,
searched all over Fort Smith. We searched Van Buren. We went into Greenwood and searched for her. I mean, and no stone was left unturned. We were
Yeah.
searching every place that we could possibly. I mean, we were looking in outbuildings. Hell, we even looked in the little sewer drains looking for her because we had no idea what may have happened to her.
Yeah.
And when we got word that she had been found in the woods in the condition that she was in, it completely devastated all of us that had been out there looking for her.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I just uh so how long did you help search or just in general?
I was asked to search by my cousin because my cousin actually had gone to school with her at West Ark.
Okay.
And I was involved in the search. I went in right after they found the car. I think is when I
Okay.
got involved in it and started hanging flyers and everything. Because up to that point, there had been no real publicity on her case. No one had
Yeah.
really been covering it. Channel 5 had done a couple of brief stories on it, which is something else that I'll say. At least then, the news station and Channel 5 is still real good about it. They'll run missing persons cases left and right on Channel 5. The other stations, not so much. Usually, the other stations won't pick anything up unless law enforcement reaches out directly to them. But in Melissa's case, it was actually her friends that took the flyer to the news station and said, "Hey, we're not getting anywhere with anyone else. Could you please
Hmm.
put some information out on her?" And they did.
Yeah. I know. It's just so irritating when it's talking about, like in Miss Barbara's case, the family's having to do all the work and the friends having to do all the work, and it just
Oh,
it's
there's
never.
definitely a lot of correlations between this case and Barbara's case, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they blew poor Marianne off when she tried to report Melissa missing. They gave her the runaround, and they did that for damn near a week. Even after the car was found, they were saying, "Oh, we don't think foul play." Okay, well, maybe if you saw that blood in the parking lot, you would have thought differently.
Thank you. Oh, just I don't know. It just all right. Let's see. Uh, so I just want to play a quick video clip just of they did one the executive director or executive producer of the new Hulu video. It's called At Wit's End, or the documentary. At Wit's End, the hunt for a killer. I think it's just about maybe 2.5 minutes long. Then we can talk about that a little bit.
Well, good evening to you. We're going to begin tonight with the latest docu-series to focus on an Arkansas cold case. Hulu's At Wit's End, the hunt for a killer, probes the 1994 murder of Fort Smith native Melissa Witt. Channel 7 News spoke with the driving force behind that project today. Our Emma Allen joins us tonight with the story now. Emma.
Chris, it's been 30 years since Melissa Witt went missing, and now 30 years down the road, the director of this new 4-part docuseries says new information is still being uncovered. The docuseries, now streaming on Hulu, focuses on the disappearance of 19-year-old Melissa Witt, who went missing from a Fort Smith bowling alley in 1994. Weeks later, her body was found in the Ozark National Forest, 50 miles from where she disappeared. Series director Devin Park says 30 years later, new information on the cold case is coming to light.
We, as a film crew, we become the fly on the wall for the investigation team, for the cold case team, for law enforcement, and detectives from all these agencies. So we are allowed a certain level of access that you don't normally get, and you really get to see some inside detail that normally would not be released.
Parks was also the director of the docuseries Still Missing Morgan, that followed the cold case of 6-year-old Morgan Nick, who disappeared from a ballpark in Alma, Arkansas.
Two of the investigators that were involved in that case, they began developing potential leads in Melissa's case as well. And Morgan's case and Melissa's happened so close together, and they were such unique crimes that often the two are talked about in the same breath.
Investigators started to dive back into Melissa's case as filming for Still Missing Morgan wrapped up. And that is when Parks and his crew followed along.
We began following that cold case team as they did that, and we've been following for the past couple of years, and this is the culmination of their efforts.
Parks saying their goal is to get Melissa's story out to the world.
And really give them the same heart for these victims locally, like Melissa Witt and Morgan Nick, that we as locals feel.
The docuseries was released August 6th, and at this time it can only be watched on Hulu. On your side, I'm Emma Allen.
All right, that was watch out, I'm pushing buttons. There we go. So that is the new documentary. Like I said, it's on Hulu. So anybody who has Hulu, if you haven't already watched it, if you're interested in this case or not, or just want to learn, to me, and Arctic, I know what you have to say about this, but I want you to say it again. But to me, the uneven ground video or thing that LaDonna Humphrey did had a lot more information than, because this one, in my opinion, didn't have any, for anybody who knows the case very well, like we do, and other people, it didn't have really any new information, and they left out, like you said earlier, and you can speak on this, left out a lot of stuff.
They didn't talk about this new suspect hardly at all. All they really did is they briefly glossed over Melissa's diary. They didn't state that, hey, she was supposed to meet this guy the night that she disappeared, that allegedly he has a Mickey Mouse watch that he's been keeping on display at his apartment, identical to Melissa's watch. They didn't mention that there's a reward out there for information leading to credible tips. There's a lot that they could have put out that they didn't put out in the documentary. And they certainly glossed over the fact of all the missteps of law enforcement along the way.
Yeah. And another thing I didn't know until I watched this clip that I just showed was that the same crew, a documentary film crew that did this, was the one that did the Still Missing Morgan, which I love that one. That one I thought was very good. Which Morgan Nick's case is another one. I'm gonna have to get you on here again sometime, and so we can talk about Morgan Nick. But yeah, I didn't know it was the same film crew.
No, I was not aware of that either until I saw that clip. Well, Lisa Joe, you know what? I can't vouch for the legitimacy of it. There was a diary entry that's allegedly that would back it up. I don't know about the whole legitimacy of the Mickey Mouse watch that came from this guy's roommate, allegedly. And I know that LaDonna Humphrey has spent years as a private eye investigating Melissa's case. She's written numerous books on it. Of course, again, it's a PI, and I do have my, they're hit or miss whether they're legit or not. I'll say that. But she does tend to come at it from a very logical perspective, and as someone that lived through this case, she's been pretty dead on in her coverage of it. So
yeah. All right, I want to get quickly to some comments that I had starred. Where's it? Miss Mel. Miss Mel is here. Hey, Miss Mel. I just wanted to say hello to Miss Mel. Always good to have her here. You covered the one about that Mr. James asked about the DNA from the cigarettes. Let's see, I had one. Earlier, Miss Lisa Jones said, she says she knows more about this case than I probably know about any homicide, and it wasn't even on purpose. Yes, this, like I said, even though like I said, years and years and years too late, it's getting national coverage. But yeah, it's coming up on 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. 30 years that this case has gone on. It hasn't been solved. Melissa's mother has now passed away, so she never got to see justice for her daughter or anything. Basically, anyone that all of her loved ones have since passed away is my understanding. So, at this point, but either way, she still needs justice. She needs to be found and be given a proper resting place, regardless of whether she's got any family still here or not. And Lisa Joe, I'm not going to argue with you about it. I really don't know LaDonna Humphrey that well. If there's podcasts out there that she's been putting BS out in the past, there is. I just have, the only thing I've ever seen is her coverage on the Melissa Witt case. So.
Yeah, there are some, because I've always, as far as Melissa's case, LaDonna Humphrey was my go-to, watching the documentaries. But I came and I don't, I can't even, can never remember the name of the YouTube channel. But he's, whoever it is, has done I don't know how many videos supposedly about some things that LaDonna's done. But like I said, I don't. The only thing I know about her is just her coverage of this case, and so I can't really speak on what she's done
Yeah, I
elsewhere.
mean
But
that's me. I'd never even heard of her before until I
mhm,
started reading and researching, the latest updates in Melissa's
yeah,
case, and that's how I came across her information. So
yeah, but yeah, I do. Like I said, I can't off the top of my head. I can't think of that YouTube channel, but I am going to kind of watch maybe a couple of those videos just to see what it's all about. But thank you, Lisa Joe. Lisa Joe may have been the one that brought that to my attention. I'm not sure. Um,
oh, I'm sure that there's podcasts out there. I mean, and I will say this: I'm not saying that they're not without merit, but there's always going to be someone that has beef with someone else. Sometimes it's merited, sometimes it's not. It's
yeah,
it's just one of those things. But
yeah,
yeah, the fact that she's a private eye, though, I mean that I've met a few very good private eyes. Most of
yeah,
them are sleazeballs, though, especially when they go advertising on posts of missing children.
yeah,
Um, so there is that.
yeah. All right. Let's see. So we touched on Charles Ray Vines, which he ended up dying in prison from something he had. I don't even know if they ever disclosed his illness, but we touched on him. He was convicted of, I think, two, Juanita Walford and can't remember the other, two elderly ladies, and then he was caught actually um,
Trying
assaulting,
trying
trying to
to assault
assault,
a 16-year-old, and
yeah,
fortunately, that
her
little
daddy.
girl's parents came home because
Yes.
they had forgotten something when they went out, and
Hmm.
her daddy beat the living shit out of the man.
Exactly. Yep. So he ended up going to prison for that. I'm trying to remember if it was after they got him for her and put his DNA in the system, is when they connected him to the two elderly ladies. My mind just went blank, but so he's not in this world anymore, and in my opinion, good riddance to him, because regardless if he was involved in Melissa's case, he was not a good dude.
Exactly,
Um,
and it took a few, I think, almost 10 years before he was connected to Juanita Wofford's case, and then once he was
yes,
connected to that one, shortly thereafter, he was connected to the other one.
to the other, yeah, I can't remember. I think Miller was the other lady's last name, but I can't think of her first name. So they I just forgot what I was going to say. Imagine that, my mind going blank. Oh, Chris is talking about the M. Oh, okay, the M alert. So then we had Travis Dale Crouch. And I think you said maybe is he the one you said maybe was the closest, maybe, as far as the ones that they've named publicly that.
The ones that they've named publicly, Travis Dale Crouch is probably who I most likely lean towards being the one responsible for her murder. Simply because he's committed those types of crimes before against similar aged victims. He had family that had a church just right up the
Yes.
road, less than 8 miles from where Melissa's body had been dumped. Um, and I very much think that his victim out in Colorado that he is doing time for now, had he not been so drunk and fallen asleep
Yes.
while he was doing his thing, I very much think that she would have been murdered. I really do.
Yes.
Uh,
I agree. Go ahead.
I mean, there's just so much that was similar to Melissa's case when they were talking about her assault and everything. And I was, yeah. And plus, there was a child at the bowling world who said that he saw a brown car in the parking lot and two
Mhm.
people arguing. And at that time, Travis's mom was driving a brown Chevy Caprice. Now, this
Yes.
little boy said he saw a car that looked similar to a Lincoln Town car. It was a
Mhm.
large brown car, and a Caprice fits that description. So,
Yes. See, I had an article I was going to bring up about with some info about Travis Del Crouch, but you gave all the info. I didn't have to use it. Oh, well, you
sorry.
are a walk. You no, you're fine. You're a walking fountain of information. I would rather you tell it than them have to listen to me read it. Because I think you went over all the information. Because I was just going to bring up about the church that his family ran was not that far actually from where they found Melissa's body. The similar crimes, violent past, and then in Colorado, the one that you were talking about that she managed to escape. But I agree with you that she probably would not be on this earth anymore if it hadn't been for him being so out of his head. Yes, Miss Mel, going back to the documentary, says the journalist that was involved with this series seemed very genuine, that she probably has good info. Yes, that was Charlene Shirk or Charlene
Yes,
Shirk. Yes.
Charlene Shurt. She was a News 5 reporter back in the
Hmm.
90s.
Yes.
And again, had it not been for her, God bless her, Melissa's story wouldn't have gotten out for probably a week later than what it did.
Yeah. Yeah, because she basically covered it from the beginning up until now with this new. Of course, she was in the new documentary. So yeah. I'm just trying to see. I'd starred some comments just so I wouldn't lose them. I think I got to all of them though. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, welcome, Holly. Welcome back. She says you sub to Arctic. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. If somebody can, if Michelle C is still here, anybody with a wrench can throw in. I put it in chat earlier and pinned it to the top on YouTube side, but apparently YouTube decided to. I don't think it's there anymore. Throw in Arctic's channel. Throw in Arctic's channel. Throw in Miss Mel's channel. Any other creators who are in here, y'all can. Yes, Miss Lisa Joe said she was amazing in the documentary. It made you cry. Oh, you talking about Charlene? Yep. Yeah, you can tell
She
she
was
just cared.
amazing. She was amazing, period. When Missy went missing and we were all out searching, she not only was covering the case, she was boots on the ground during the search, too. She searched as hard
Yeah.
as the rest of us did for that girl.
Oh wow. And see, nothing against reporters, but most reporters would not, you know, he wouldn't do that. But yeah, she really, yes, Miss Lisa Joe said, oh, where'd it go? Wrong one. There it is. You can just tell how affected she has been. Absolutely. Yep. And another thing, talking about going back to the documentary, because I don't know if it was in the Uneven Ground documentary or maybe in just an interview that I'd found with some Oklahoma law enforcement that I think it was when I was doing research when I was getting ready to do the Morgan Nick videos and stuff. But they said that they were doing some digging, and it was not related to Morgan, but they called in the FBI, whatever, for Morgan. And I always wonder, well, who were the, where were they digging out? What case was it? But in this new documentary, it showed them, I think it was digging at Charles Ray Vine's property. So I'm wondering if that's the same deal, the same thing.
Well, I know that they had been digging at Charles Ray Vine's property because there was a tip that came through from the wife of someone that was in jail. Allegedly, Charles Ray Vines had mentioned the Melissa Witt case, and it got all convoluted and stuff. They initially thought it was related to the Morgan Nick case, and then it
Yes.
came out, no, it was the Witt case, and that's what prompted all the digging at the property. Well, actually, they went out there, and then when they get out there, they see all these tombstones and stuff on Charles Ray Vine's property, and they were like, oh shit, we better investigate this. So
Exactly. I just wanted to say, Dave is in the house. Hello, Dave. He is listening and driving. Be careful, as always, Dave. And then Miss Mel said, did Melissa show horses? I don't know. Not that I've ever heard, but
yeah, I've not heard anything about her ever showing horses. She wasn't from a very wealthy family or anything like that, so I can't imagine that she was showing horses.
yeah. So did you have a specific reason, Mel, for asking that, or just I'm just curious. But thank you for the question. Once again, Dave is listening and driving. Just making sure I haven't missed anybody that snuck in. All right, so we got Travis Dale Crouch, Swearingen, pretty much, which he is deceased too because he got the DP for the homicide of Melissa Trotter, which is there on the right side. Killed, I think, similar to Melissa's case. I think he was briefly looked at, but considered. But I'm like Arctic. I really don't. He's not high up on my list. To me, in my opinion, the two highest up on my list are also or Travis Dale Crouch, and then this mystery diary person, and who says he had the watch, and the roommate says and the diary says that he was supposed to see Melissa. But just for anybody who doesn't know, but this Swearingen guy was not a good guy either. Just quickly, some info on him. He, on July 11th, 2000, he was sentenced to the DP for kidnapping, SA, and strangulation of Melissa Trotter. After meeting Melissa Trotter, she was also a 19-year-old college student. This was in December 98. Larry Swearingen told his co-workers and friends that he had met an attractive college girl, so apparently he had a type, and hinted that he wanted to have relations with her. In the early afternoon of December 8th, Swearingen and Trotter were seen departing together from Montgomery College in Conroe, Texas. After talking to each other in the library, Melissa's friends and family never saw her again after that, so that's why he became the focus of the investigation initially. On January 2nd, 99, Melissa Trotter's partially nude body was discovered in Sam Houston National Forest. Once again, similar to, because Melissa was also found in a national forest. She had been strangled with a piece of basically pantyhose around her neck. Evidence showed that she had been SA'd. Fiber evidence showed that she had been in Swearingen's trailer, on the floor, probably on the bed, and then in the cab of his pickup truck. So they had all kinds of evidence. I think they found her. It says they found her hair in the truck. And let's see, another piece of pantyhose that matched with the ones she had been strangled with was found next to his trailer. So they had plenty, and from what I just read about this case, he and his lawyer said, and I think maybe the Innocence Project tried to get involved, but said that it was bogus forensics and all this crap. But in my opinion, he got what he deserved. So,
And they've pretty much eliminated him at this point
yeah,
as being involved in Melissa's case. The reason why I'm so hung up on Travis Dale Crouch is because they had asked him to voluntarily give DNA at one point, and he literally said something to the effect of, "I ain't giving those dumb MFs in Arkansas my DNA for nothing."
yes, I remember reading that, or reading it or hearing it, or yes. Yeah, it's, and I know he's still in prison in Colorado, and he was or has been up for parole. But when I checked, because I had that article, he has been denied parole. So He's where,
Yeah,
in my
but
opinion, he's
he
where
comes
he
up.
needs to be.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. He's going to be up for parole in another year. So if they're
Mm.
going to get his DNA put into CODIS, they need to get on the ball with that shit because there's a likelihood that he could be released when he comes up this next time. And it's ridiculous that they're doing parole hearings every single year for this dude, given the gravity of the crime that he committed. And he makes his victim and her family relive this every single time he comes up for parole.
So why? Okay, so I always get confused by this. So why is even though he was arrested, convicted, he's in prison, why is his DNA? I don't understand why his DNA is not in CODIS.
Because it happened in 1998, which was before the federal law was passed that would automatically collect the DNA from people convicted of these crimes and have it entered into CODIS. Now, once that law was passed, it was supposed to have all been collected from people that had already been convicted and be put into the system, but he slipped through the cracks and that never happened.
Of course. Oh my goodness. So is there somewhat there? I mean, they find loopholes for everything else. Can they not find a loophole to get his DNA in there so it can be? Because in my
Oh,
opinion, once again, even if he didn't have anything to do with Melissa, I'm sure there's others out there that he could possibly have had something to do with.
Oh, absolutely. All they gotta do is go swab him. He's in prison. They can collect his DNA now, and yeah, he don't have to agree to it willingly. All they gotta do is collect it, and they need to do that sooner than later.
I know. I don't. Why haven't they done it? Or why haven't they done it already? Oh my goodness. Just drives me nuts. Drives me
Well,
nuts.
if I could reach through the screen and slap some people while I was watching that documentary, I'm pretty sure that I'd probably be in jail for assaulting a police officer. So.
That's all right. I'm pretty sure that me and a lot of us here would come bail you out. You wouldn't be in there long. Oh goodness. All right. Trying to think of what else I had. So we talked about him. We talked about the. So I think that's all that I had planned. So just Arctic, any other thoughts? Anything you want to say on this or any other case? We haven't even gone doing an hour yet. We're doing good.
Like I said, this young lady, she had a bright future ahead of her. She was going to college. She was working as a in a dental office. She had just bought a brand new car. That Mitsubishi Mirage that she had was new at the time that she went missing. So she was doing okay for herself. And
Yeah,
I think that there's several lessons that can be learned from this case. However, it seems like a lot of people haven't learned the lessons from it. But had they done things properly from the jump, this could have had an entirely different ending, and it could have very well been solved by now.
exactly. So Lance, our resident Canadian, says in Canada, anyone in jail or that gets charged with a violent crime has to give DNA. It is mandatory. Excellent.
That's how it is here now.
Yeah.
If you
Now,
if you
yeah.
Yeah, but back in 1998, it was a completely different story. Well, hell, back in 1998, even DNA was still pretty much in its infancy. I mean, it wasn't near what it is today. So,
Yeah. Mm. And I had something I was going to say, and once again, it just flew out of my head.
but
I was
Melissa's
going
case
to ask.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
it just came into my head. Melissa's case is another example why genetic genealogy is so very important, because I think in the end that may be what solves the who killed Melissa. So
Yes. You know me in genetic genealogy. I'm all for. I mean, I'm all for the, like I talked about on when I had Mr. Steve on the other night. I'm all for, right to privacy and all that. But God, if it can be used to most definitely identify remains of, missing that have been found or offenders, there's got to be a way to meet in the middle and do it the right way where it can be used in, court. And it's not just, and I think some people have the misconception that, okay, so we put this DNA in a genetic genealogy and they matched it to this person, so bam, we can go arrest them. That's not how it works. They still have to do all the other, investigative work, get whoever they think it is from the family tree that they build from the DNA genetic genealogy. They still have to get that person's DNA, whether it's given willingly or they follow somebody around, like we were talking about the one case, and picked up the cigarette butt, and the one from Arkansas picked up the cigarette butt in the Walmart parking lot, matched the DNA. They researched, did their investigation, found out he was in the area. He had a family member that lived not far from the lady, so it's not just bam, this is what the genetic genealogist said, so we're going to go arrest them. They still have to go through the process. So.
Yeah, exactly. But from a victim's advocate perspective, I would gladly give up my right to privacy for
Yep.
these cases to get solved. And honestly, I want to know. I want to know if one of my relatives committed such a horrible crime, because I'll be the first one at court saying, throw the key away.
Exactly. Yeah. Because a lot of people say, oh, I just couldn't do that to a family member. Well, yeah, of course it's going to kill your soul, but that doesn't, even just because it's your family member, doesn't make it right. If they did something horrible, and I think going back to that, solvethecase.org, there is a section on there, because I was looking, and I was going to put I'll put a link to that. I think I did put it in the community post, but they do, advocate for people to put DNA into, like, the GEDmatch and the family tree DNA, the ones that the law enforcement can use. They advocate, that's what they said. Put your DNA, submit your DNA willingly, because you never know. It may not be a close family member even that you have. They may find a distant family member that you may not even know. They could be a match for a crime or a missing person, or remains that have been found. So
Exactly. I mean, there's so much good that comes out of putting your information in GEDmatch.
yes.
I can't stress enough how important that is. There's been so many people identified. The best and most famous case is the boy in the box. That little boy still
Yes.
wouldn't have his name back had it not been for genetic genealogy. So
Exactly. And that's probably, I would say, because I can't remember,
it
was it
was over 50.
1950s?
It was over 50 years old at the
Yes.
time that he was identified. So.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's probably, the one publicly known, that's probably the oldest one that they've ever saw by genetic genealogy. And Miss Lisa Joe, she says she's obviously pro genetic genealogy. Yeah, Miss Lisa Joe, I know, does some things with, I forgot what you called it now. But yeah, she's definitely with the DNA. And she says, yes, even if they follow them around, and they do get it, yes, they do get another sample. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, because they still have to, if they surreptitiously collect it, like the cigarette butt, and it's a match, they still do have to get a sample. If they don't give it willingly, they have to get a warrant, probable cause, have probable cause to get a warrant to get their DNA. Yeah, Lance says, I said it in the last episode, I think all newborn babies should have their DNA taken at birth. I think Arctic said the same thing too.
I did. I mean, they footprint babies at birth. I don't. Look, here's the deal. When I was a kid, the the police stations all had little books for you to have your kids' fingerprints taken in the
Yep.
event that they ever got kidnapped. So even if you're not on board with that, well, why don't we have? I mean, because fingerprints can only do so much. We should have DNA kits given out to parents for them to, and I know some police stations do it, but not all of them,
Yeah.
so that they have a sample of their child's DNA on file in the event that something tragic ever happens, their kid goes missing, they're not heard from. Because it's just important to have that. And then the parent can make the decision if they want to submit that and put it into GEDmatch or not.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember back in the late 90s, early 2000s. My oldest nephew was just little. He's in his 30s now, but I'd taken him, so when they still lived down here, I'd taken him to, he went to Walmart with me one time, and the local sheriff's office, Lonoke County Sheriff's Office, was doing like little identity kits. Basically, they were taking the fingerprints of a child and other things, and they gave the kit to you. That way, if the child ever went missing, you could at least have their fingerprints, their vitals, and all that. But yeah, even back then they were doing with, like you said, with fingerprints. But yeah, like you said, fingerprints can only do so much. So DNA is where it is at now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, these cases that go unsolved, because guys, you have to understand, I just did a live stream yesterday, and I probably went over 30 or 40 cold cases in that stream. And
That
these
was
are
an
all
excellent stream, by
cases.
the way.
Oh, thank you. But it's just, these are all cases. Some, yeah, I was asking myself, well, why hasn't this douchebag not been arrested? I mean, there's some that
Hmm.
the suspect or the person responsible, in my opinion, was just blatantly obvious in going over the information, and they've not been charged with anything.
Yeah, exactly. Dave says DNA has exonerated a lot of people too. Absolutely. If DNA can, I'm both sides. If DNA can be used to um, convict somebody, or at least put somebody on the police law enforcement's radar, or if it can exonerate somebody, just like the West Memphis Three, test the freaking DNA one way or another. I
Another
don't care.
Another great case is the Darlie Routier case out of
Yep.
Dallas, Texas. There's a sock that still has never been properly DNA tested. There's fingerprints or palm prints that were found that didn't belong to Darlie, the kids, or Darren, and yet she's still sitting on death row. And I do not
Mhm.
believe she's responsible, because I can't imagine anyone being bold enough to slash their neck within a millimeter of their carotid artery or their jugular vein in order to set up a
Yeah.
crime scene and make it look like someone else did it. I mean,
No, maybe, yeah, like you said, not that close. I wouldn't. No, 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 no. Miss Lisa Joe says, my sister used to say things like, they're going to clone me. I always said, who would want two of you? You sound like me talk about my brothers. Oh, goodness. Let me see here what we got going on. I think earlier I missed her that Miss Barb said that she had to go. I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodnight to her, but let's see. Lance says, which politician will be brave enough to pass that bill? Are you talking about the DNA at birth, or did I miss? I might have missed something. I'm trying to listen and keep up with comments here.
it honestly won't ever get passed because of, here's the deal. If a Republican puts it up, the Democrats going to do everything they can to try to block it, even though it's a great bill. If a
Mm,
Democrat puts it up, the Republicans are going to sit there and cock block it, because that's all Congress
yeah,
really is right now at this point, is one big cock block contest. They used to be better than that. They used to be able to walk across the aisle and work together to get things done. But now it's so divisive that it
yeah,
very rarely happens.
exactly. Miss Lisa Joe says the Nancy Doherty case by me in Chisholm, Minnesota, is a great example. The offender would have never been associated with her case. Yep. I mean, look at, like I said, we were talking about genetic genealogy. That's how the Golden State offender
Hmm.
was identified, and I don't think he was on really. I know of the case. I haven't deep dive researched it, but I don't think he was really on the radar. I mean, even though he
No.
had committed,
Well, he wasn't on the
misdeeds,
radar
but
because he was a former law enforcement officer. So,
exactly. Yep. And then with Rex Heerman. with that whole case, you know, the Long Island serial offender, all of a sudden this Rex Huron pops up, and you're like, well, where did that come from? And they got his DNA from what the a pizza crust. I mean, I know they have more than that, but you know, without DNA saying, okay, where did this come from? Who's this guy? Let's look into him. And now look how far they've come with that case. So, oh, Miss Mel says that was an incredible moment in time to be a part of, thanks to Gray Hughes and Dr. Fitzpatrick.
Now, I will say this about LaDonna Humphrey. I do have issues whenever a private investigator offers a reward and they want tips to start going directly to them, because all tips need to go directly to law enforcement. And you have to wonder how credible the reward is, unless it's put out by an actual law enforcement agency or Crime Stoppers or something like that. I don't hold a lot of faith or stock in it. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. All tips should go directly to law enforcement. Because I've had people, now granted, probably wasn't legitimate, you know, make comments on some of my videos or sometimes on Facebook. Well, I think, you know, I have some information about this, and that's what I say. Call law enforcement. I'm just a crazy woman sitting here in front of a camera sharing cases. But yes, definitely. If anybody ever has any information on any case, you definitely, law enforcement is your first call. Miss Marion says she did that. I did that with my boys. Took him to the police station and had him pictured and fingerprinted in case of a kidnapping. Yep, like I said, and when my oldest nephew is back in late 90s or early 2000s, they had us, you know, sheriff's office has a table set up right when you came in. And actually, it was a girl that I graduated with. She was a deputy, and she said, bring that boy over here and get him fingerprinted and do this kit. And I'm like, okay. So, yeah. Chris asked Miss Lisa, do you think the missing 5-year-old knew you would have been found if they put her information out there? Oh, yeah. The more, I know you're not asking me, but yeah, the more, if the information is not put out about any missing, how are people going to know what to look for, who to look for? You know. Oh, that is a good idea. Miss Lisa says at our county fair, they used to create a folder with a photo, hair samples for DNA, etc., in case your kid went missing. Absolutely.
I remember when I was in elementary school, the cops came and they handed the books out to all of us and told us to take them home to our parents and have our parents bring us by the police station so that we could get our prints put in those books, have our photographs taken, and have the book notarized and all that. That way, in the event something happened, it was there. You know, there's got to be something we can do. I mean, because everyone keeps asking me, Arctic, do you think that we have more kidnappings today than we did when? No, I don't.
No.
I think it's just that we have it thrust in our faces all the time because of social media and YouTube. And, you know, back in the 80s, we didn't have social media or any of that. So we saw the ones that were local to us, if the media decided to pick it up, and we saw the few that were put on the milk cartons, but that's really the only missing people we saw. So
exactly. And yeah, I was reading, it's funny you bring up the milk carton thing, because I was reading an article, which, you know, to me, like, you know, anything that can get awareness, put it on a milk carton, put it on whatever you can put it on. But I was reading, I can't remember the exact statistics, but, you know, how many kids were actually recovered because their face was on the milk carton. I mean, I know there were a few that were, but, you know,
it wasn't a very successful program, which is part of the reason why they ended it. But more importantly, there were kids that were being traumatized by seeing children their age on milk cartons every morning when they went to go pour their breakfast milk into their cereal.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Talking about being a Gen Xer, because that was big back in the, you know, 70s, 80s when I was a, you know, kid, young adult. That's what they say is, you know, we were trauma, you know, why are Gen Xers so tough or have this attitude that we have? And That's one thing they always say is we were traumatized when we ate cereal every morning because we, saw these faces on these milk cartons and think, oh, we're going to get snatched.
I
Like
joke
I
about
said,
it all the time. I joke about stuff like that all the time. Like, you know what? Everyone with their bougie bottled water having to have air up bottles and the latest craze. Now that you've got water in cans and everything else. Bitch, I drank from a garden hose when I was a kid. I should have immunity to every disease on this planet.
yes, exactly. I think that's why we're, because I hardly ever get sick other than like a cold or whatever. Nothing to go to the doctor for. Yeah, because we played in the dirt. We drank out of what we would go into if I was in town. We would go up into people's yards that we didn't even know, and if they had a hose hooked up to the faucet out there, we were turning it on and drinking out of it. And none of them ever said anything to it. It was normal, you know. Oh, just walk up of course, in a small town as I live in, everybody knows everybody. So, but yeah, we would just go up and drink out of whatever. Okay. Lance had said everyone was forced to take a vaccine. Why can't the same thing happen about submitting DNA? I get your point absolutely about that, but with DNA, it's the whole, privacy thing. But I'm in agreement with Arctic. There's got to be a way that you can work around it, meet in the middle, to somehow, absolutely. Miss Marion said, we thank you, Arctic Fox, for all the help that you do for all of our families. Absolutely. Arctic does an amazing job. Mr. James says he's got to go. Good night, Mr. James. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. You're most welcome, sir. Just trying to get caught up in comments. Miss Lisa says, I'm going to have to look. I've heard of this name, that Brenda Lambert, her offender is painfully obvious and Ellie has not done anything. I'm going to have to look at that one.
Yeah, Lisa can fill you in on Brenda's case. I would recommend getting the information from her directly because there
Yes.
is a lot of misinformation out there in Brenda's case.
In fact, she may be the one that brought that to my attention on Facebook or Messenger or something of that nature. But yeah, Miss Lisa Jo, I'll get with you and get something together. Yes, Chris says now there's a thing called Code Adam. If a kid, yes, at Walmart. I don't know what they call it, if they call it that at other stores, but I know at Walmart's that's what if they call Code Adam over the intercom, because I worked I worked at a Wally World for 15 years. So if you're an associate, they posted an associate at all exits and entrances. So, if the kid was getting kidnapped, they wouldn't let anybody leave with the kid. They gave a description. But thankfully, most of the ones that we had at the store I worked at, they were either, depending on how old they were either in the toy section or the electronic section with the video games. So all the ones that we had at the store I worked at, thankfully were found in the store. But yes, they do call it Code Adam at Walmart's.
I can't think of the last time that I heard a Code Adam, though. I don't even know if they do Code Adams anymore because I haven't heard one in 10 years, at least.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably been 10 years or longer since I worked there. I know I haven't had one since I've been doing Spark. I'm in and out, and I haven't heard one now. Whether that's because they don't do them anymore, or thankfully, kids stay with their parents, or parents keep their kids closer to them.
That's hopefully what's going on. Hopefully that's the case. They're keeping their kids next to them and not letting them run off all through the store.
Exactly. Oh, that was another pet peeve of mine. Oh, especially when I worked because at one point I was department manager in the toy section, and the parents, I swear, would bring them to the toy section, drop them off, and I'm talking little kids that don't know or should know better, but just let them run amok, the little rugrats. It just used to drive me batty. Lance says, yeah, they call it an Amber Alert in Canada. Yeah, we have Amber Alerts here or that's what it's called here in the U.S. too. And then I think each state has a variation, because I know here in Arkansas it's the Morgan Nick Amber Alert when they put them out.
The problem is that the requirements to have an Amber Alert issued
Yes.
vary from state to state, which is why you've got, like Summer Wells, she almost immediately got an Amber Alert, where you have Michael Monkey Vaughn out of Idaho, and an Amber Alert
Yep.
was never issued for him. So,
Yep. And I think I do have them in the description of the live stream. I'd also have the link to Arctic's petition to reform or standardize the Amber Alert. Please, anybody who has not signed it, please sign it. If you've already signed it, share it. Also have the petition. I believe I put the link to the petition to have Timmy D's case reopened is also in the description. Once again, sign it if you haven't already. If you've already signed it, please share it. Miss Mel says she agrees couldn't agree more on Darlie Routier. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Miss Lisa Joe says she has hung out with Nancy Doherty's offender. I can't say the M word. Well, I could, but wow. That's crazy.
another case that needs the Innocence Project involved is Brendan Dassey, in my opinion. That kid got railroaded. He was interrogated for hours and hours. He doesn't have a very good mental capacity, and he had no one in there with him when he was being interrogated. That's another one that I think was completely railroaded in my book. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think in what was it? Oh, I think in my members only video that I did, the last one I put up, talking about I found this article about 13 quote must see true crime documentaries, and that making Red Rummer was one of them. But yeah, I actually watched that. However many seasons they did on that case, I can't think of the other guy's name. The Brendan Dassey was the witness or whatever, or the accomplice. Supposedly, I don't believe he was, but
Brendan
Stephen,
Brendan was the nephew,
yes, the
and
nephews.
and that case was. I've got major issues with that case. I think that there was some big corruption of law enforcement's part in that case all around. But
Yeah, and I can't think. Oh, Stephen Avery. I couldn't think of the other guy's
yeah,
name.
Stephen Avery, and then the reporter's car. They can't find it for the longest time. Magically, they just end up finding it right in the junkyard owned by the Averys. I mean, I'm sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, couldn't be more obvious. Kind of like Melissa's car sitting right there in the parking lot, of the Bowling World where she disappeared from.
Yeah, but
Let's.
in the case of that case though, I think that car was planted in the junkyard, quite honestly.
Yeah,
That's just my
yeah,
personal opinion.
yeah. Because who would be? I mean, I know there are stupid criminals, but I mean, who would be stupid enough to hide it right there on your property? Lance says someone should start a petition about taking DNA samples at birth. Dave says, I don't know how many times before DNA a person was suspected of being responsible for a crime only to be vindicated years later. Absolutely. Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm all for if DNA can be used to exonerate someone. Absolutely. Oh, Miss Paula says she is officially here now. Oh, Miss Mel says Boone County Jane Doe, finally identified as Margaret Ann. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Snagowski was a big one for her. We have a Boone County in Arkansas. That might not be the same one you're talking about. And we did have a Boone County Jane Doe. I don't know if that's the same one you're talking about. Miss Lisa Joe says, I usually say to contact Ellie and Barbara's Kate. Yeah. But if they don't feel comfortable, they can contact me because it's been 43 years. I don't want people to continue keeping things to themselves. Yeah, in some cases, especially in Timmy's case,
Oh,
Nothing against law enforcement, but yeah, I would not trust that particular law enforcement that supposedly was working, although it's closed. Hence the petition to reopen it. Yeah, I would not trust them with anything.
I mean, there are certain cases, but like with all the cluster that we're seeing in Sebastian's case right now, law enforcement's
Yeah.
done everything they can. They've brought in the FBI, the TBI, they've brought in the Secret Service, and they have put exhaustive searches out for Sebastian. And they are working on tips. And I know everyone's frustrated right now because they're not putting out a bunch of updates. But again, what do they want? I want them to keep stuff close to the vest. I don't want them to compromise the case, and then we end up with another Casey Anthony situation where whoever's responsible walks free.
Exactly. That's with Sebastian's case. Scares me so much with all the people. Like you said, they purposely, for a reason, don't put stuff out because it could be something only an offender would know, or might have something to do with somebody they're looking at, and they don't want the information public because they don't want to spook a person, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, don't get me started.
Exactly. Yeah,
Go ahead.
Paula, the Secret Service was brought in to do forensic analysis of the electronic devices.
Oh, did I miss a comment? Looking for Miss Paula. Trying to find that comment. I'm behind. I'll find it. Miss Mel says I feel like I remember doing this as a kid with a Cowboy Bob event. Yes, excellent point. I know Arctic has opinion on this too. Miss Lisa Joe said we know that all quote runaways aren't always runaways. Exactly. And even if they are a runaway, it should not make a difference.
Yeah, well, I have said it 1,000 times. It seems like every child over the age of 10 that goes missing, law enforcement has a little rubber stamp and they stamp runaway on their forehead. And
Yep.
unfortunately, one of the cold cases I covered the other day, it really irritated me so bad because it was like a 3-year-old little boy and they were saying he was a runaway.
Oh my
I'm like,
goodness.
how the heck, how does a 3-year-old unlock a doorknob and run away? Because they can barely reach the doorknob. Yeah, no, that child did not run away. Come on now.
No, that's see, and I think it may be in one of my missing person Monday, but there was a little boy that was 3, 4, 5 years old and said that he had a history of running away. I'm like, what 3, 4, or 5-year-old has a history of running away? It's if they have a history of running away, then they're not running away. There's something, they're either being put out by whoever they're living with. But yeah.
See, Lisa Joe, I'm with you on that. I mean, I'm kind of an armchair detective, but while I will put my theory out there, I always say explicitly that it's a theory, and I don't go accusing families of having something to do with a disappearance without any evidence to back it up unless law enforcement has put something out. I will always side with the side of families every single time until I have reason not to. So,
Yeah. Miss Lisa Joe said, sorry, I'm behind in comments, so I may not have seen some stuff, but Miss Lisa said Jacob Wetterling being abducted scared her as a kid. His grandparents lived across the street from her babysitter. Wow. Yeah, I don't think I've done a video on his case because there's so many out there, but I have read on that case. Yeah. And so Miss Anderson Nutrition Justice go back to drinking out of garden hoses. Says we have a spring well everyone loves to get water from. Oh yes, I so wish we still had well water, good old well water out here on the farm. But unfortunately, our well ran dry and we had to get city water pumped in. Nasty. Nasty, nasty. Anyway, Miss Lisa said his grandparents kept a lighted sign that said Jacob's Hope in their window.
Yeah, Jacob's case is another case where law enforcement really dropped the ball. They had the person responsible for Jacob's unaliving in their grasp from the beginning, and pretty much somehow said he was cleared, and it wasn't until years later that he was arrested. And in the meantime, it appears that Jacob's body had actually been moved at some point during the time that he was unaccounted for. It's terrible. It's
Yeah,
absolutely terrible. I mean, it's another example of a case where law enforcement dropped the ball, and I see it in so many of these cases. And I tell you what, it's no wonder my blood pressure is not under control.
exactly. Be like me and have to take 2 different kinds of blood pressure medication. I think mine is due to too many years working at Wally World. Oh, I missed. He may already be gone. Lance said he was taking off. Thank you, Lance, for being here. Absolutely. I'm trying to get caught up in comments with y'all. Miss Mel is chiming in on the water hose thing. She said she had a thing for water hose water when she was a kid. That was my big disobedience rage against the rules. Nowadays, I'd have been charged with trespassing. Yeah, we would go and, like I said, on the farm, we had to worry about it because we don't have any neighbors. Closest neighbor is down the road about half a mile and around the corner. But yeah, when I was in town with the friends, running wild in the streets, whatever house we were close to, because back in the late 80s or 80s, late 70s, early 80s, every house had in the summertime, had a garden hose hooked up to the outside faucet. So wherever we were at, we just go up in the yard, turn we didn't know we didn't know who lived there. We drank it. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, nothing like drinking water that tastes like it came straight out of a steel belted radial tire.
Exactly. But hey, man, on a hot summer day, couldn't beat it. Absolutely. Miss Marion said justice for Timmy DEES. Absolutely. Miss Mel says hide your water hose. Yep, hide your water hoses. I will still, if I'm outside doing anything in the yard, because we always have the hose hooked up to the faucet. If I'm outside doing whatever and I get thirsty, I'll just turn on the water hose and take a drink from it. And I'm 53 years old. It never leaves you. It's ingrained. In you. Thank you, Miss Marion says she signed both petitions. Thank you, ma'am. Well, Stan says, I don't know what she's talking about. It says, but if you think like this, we're nuts. I freely admit I'm nuts. Okay, Boone County, Indiana. Thank you. Oh, maybe this was Miss Paula says something about the Secret Service. That maybe I'm behind. I'm just not getting caught up. I don't know if that's what you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Miss Ange, for being here. She said she had to go. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. You have she's probably already gone. I hope she has a great night too. Chris says, I'm trying not to butcher this name. The case of Jakia Scales upsets me tremendously because it had been where I used to live. I'll have to look at that one too. I have not heard of that one. Absolutely. Miss Marion says, if we don't put these stories out about our loved ones, then how are we going to get help and find them? You're right.
That's why I've started doing the lives that I do, because I know that my videos are primarily focused on current cases. But when I do a live, I can mix 20, 30, 40 of the cold cases into that live and
Yep.
get their faces out at the same time. So
Yeah. Yeah, because I've heard or had some comments, which comments don't bother me, you know. But people say, all you do is cold cases. What about all these current missing? Well, absolutely. But there are so many other creators and channels, and I do post current missing on my community tab and on my Facebook group and on all that. There's so many people that are doing current missing, and the cold cases kind of get lost in the shuffle sometimes. So that's why I concentrate a lot on my channel on the cold cases, you know. But
Well, the
I'll
cold
definitely
cases
share
are important.
flyers.
In a sense, the cold cases need more attention than some of the current cases do, because at least the current cases, there are creators that are going to be covering those. Those cold cases, they get forgotten about as soon as the next case comes along, which I made a point to say in my live, because these families, some of these families have been waiting over 50 or 60 years for justice in these cold cases, guys. And so it's important that a light gets shined on them. If we don't do it, no one's going to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I could do, which like I said, I mostly do on this channel. All my videos or live streams could be on cold cases, and it wouldn't even be the tip of the iceberg as far as cold cases go. You know, I'm always coming across one just when I think I've heard of a lot of them. You know, I'm always on Facebook, especially when I'm going through the groups and stuff I'm in on Facebook. Oh, I haven't heard of this one. I haven't heard of this one. I got to do something on this one. You know, it's endless, unfortunately. There's Miss Paula. Hello, Miss Paula. Yes, definitely. Yeah, like we talking about earlier. Yeah, if a 3-year-old is running away, then the first place I would look is within the household, because if there's something that bad going to make a 3-year-old want to get out of that house, then yeah, something definitely needs to be looked at. Miss Lisa said the Wedling case is, yeah, solved now. Patty and does a lot of great work for missing. Yeah, I think they talked to, was it in the Still Missing Morgan documentary that Morgan's mom sat down and talked with Jacob's mom. I think it was in that documentary or something I watched with Miss Lisa Joe says she's, yeah, like me, she still drinks out of the hose. Oh, excellent. Miss Marion said her dad was from Blytheville, Arkansas. Excellent. Oh, Dave said his brother ran away 3 times. I don't think I ever ran away. I probably thought about it when I was being, you know, a little snot when I was younger, but living out in the country, you couldn't run too far, you know. We owned all the land around here, so it's like, go ahead, run. My grandma or whoever, mom would say, okay, I'll pack your bags for you. Go on. Oh, goodness. Oh, Paula's asking Dave what kind of driving he does. Yep, absolutely. Cold cases need coverage. Absolutely. Yes. Lisa says, I think the unreported cold cases especially need to be paid attention to. There are many, all these does who are getting ID'd. Absolutely. Yes, you watch. I'm trying to think. It's on Hulu. Still Missing Morgan. If you have Hulu, definitely watch that documentary. Very good, in my opinion. And apparently in Arctics too, he says yes, yeah, they did a good job with that one. All right. Anybody got anything else? Arctic, you got anything else, sir?
I am good.
All right. Anybody have any other questions, comments on anything? Doesn't have to be Melissa, but please do. Anybody listening, watching out there who may have information on Melissa's case, 800-440-1922. Chris, okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris. He said he sent me some information. Absolutely. Good night, Miss Mel. Thank you so much for being here. Miss Mel, I'm going to have you on here sometime too. On here with me. Yeah, any other creator in here or anybody who ever wants to come up to talk about a case, absolutely get in touch with me. Let me find my, I can never find the right, there it is. No, that's not it. Oh, there, no, good Lord. Watch out, I'm pushing button. There it is. All you gotta do is email me, or if you're on Facebook with me or on Facebook, you can contact me on Facebook. Most would love to have anybody on that wants to come on. And it is always a pleasure to have Mr. Arctic Fox come on.
It's always a pleasure to be here. You know, normally I tell people to email me too, but I am horrific about checking my email.
I'm the same way.
I might get it once a day. The best way to, if you want me to cover a case, is do what Kriska does and send me a message on Facebook or drop it in the Facebook group and tag me.
Yes, I'm so bad because I set up because I used to use my personal email address for people, but now I thought, well, that might not be such a good idea. So I set up this separate one, my Southern Gal one, and I always forget to check it. Hell, I very rarely check my personal email. So yeah, absolutely, probably the best way to get in touch with me also is Facebook Messenger. Yes, thank you. That's the name of that, the Pretend podcast. Thank you. Could not think of that for the life of me. All right, let me get let me get back to where I was. You're welcome, Miss Marion. Thank you so much for being here. Absolutely, that's what we are here for. Chris says good night, everyone. All right, guys. So, I don't know how many of you have seen. I did do a poll actually, to see if anybody. I have an unexpected free Friday night that I wasn't expecting this weekend. So whoever wants to come join, I'm probably going to do a Friday fun night, Southern Gal After Dark, decompression, as Mom calls it, from Mind to Monster. Sunshine calls it, Friday night around 8:30ish, so in Central Time. So if anybody is free and would like to join, Arctic, if you're free, you can come up and do your stand up. It'll be a free for all.
Depending on how I'm feeling, I may do that. If I'm in pain, though, it's probably not going to happen.
No pressure, buddy. No pressure. I understand. So be looking for that Friday. I'll have the video uploaded on Brent. Once again, for anybody who may have missed it, one more time. Oh, if I can get my computer's. Oh, there it is. Let me find the right one. Brent McGee or John Brent McGee. That's going to be my kind of case spotlight missing for the week. I'll have that video uploaded, available to members early, that whatever night or Thursday night when after it's uploaded, and then available to everybody else. Friday morning, probably around 9-10ish Central Time, and then like I said, Friday night, we'll have our Friday fun night for whoever wants to come and join in. And then being as Dave was in here, I'm sure Dave will be doing a live early Sunday morning. So please, if you're up, join Dave. Thank you for being here from Australia. No worries, Miss Marion. No worries. You spend all the time you can with them grandkids. Yes, ma'am. All right, guys, I'm going to quit babbling now and get out of here. Thank you once again, Arctic, for being here. Thank you, everybody who was here live. Thank you, everybody. I guess I could turn my cam on. Well, I'm thanking everybody. Thank you, everybody who's watching replay. Have a good rest of your week. Yes, Dave takes care of the owls. That's all he says. He takes care of the owls. Alicia Doe says good night. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and I will see y'all Friday. Once again, my multitasking is not working out here. I'll find it. Good night, y'all.